This session is titled Sustainable Practices and Innovation in Nigeria's Fashion Industry. So, I'm not going to assume that everyone here knows what, sustainability is about. I'm not going to just feel like, do we all know what sustainability is? We all do. If you don't know what sustainability is, please can you raise your hands? Exactly. So we have people like that in the audience. So I'm just going to start. I want us to start from the basics, right? I want us to explain what sustainability really is, because it feels like it's just a buzzword these days. That's what it feels like. Like a lot of people are just throwing it in the air. You hear, sustainable practices in my fashion, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of people do not really understand what sustainability is. So I'm going to start with Banke.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi.
Yes.
First of all, thank you so much.
So what really is sustainability?
Thank you so much for this panel session, and I'm glad that I can be here to learn from everyone on this panel as well as yourself. So sustainability is really our responsibility to take on practice that protects our environment and really the rest of the world. So, for example, at Banke Kuku, we are sustainable in the way we have a no-waste policy. So, for example, in fashion, sometimes, when you cut clothes and you have lots of waste material, sometimes in fashion houses, especially abroad, they actually just burn the fabric. Or at the end of a season, if the items haven't sold, or if something has a slight defect, they end up burning the garments, which leads to toxic fumes being released, which damages our ozone layer. So, for example, at Banke Kuku, we have we're a seasonless brand. So as long as it's selling, we have it on the shelf. We don't burn anything. Our offcuts are used to make hair scrunchies, eye masks, little products. And during COVID, we actually used the excess fabric to make face masks as well. So that's one of our sustainable practices. My current collection is called Oceans, and that's really about it's about sustainability in the marine environment in Nigeria. So with that, we told a sustainability story about the marine life in Nigeria, and we've adopted sustainable practices. So we use less plastic. We also physically take responsibility in going to beaches to clean up beaches once a month in my business. And there are lots of different ways you can be sustainable, but that's how we're being sustainable for now.
Thank you so much, Banke. And a round of applause for her, please. And I must applaud, your latest collection. I saw the story as well. And I find that truly inspiring. I saw the story of how you were talking about preserving the ocean, how the designs were inspired by the waves, the prints and all of that. Well done, well done.
Thank you so much.
All right, so moving on to our next question. We're talking about sustainable practices in the fashion space in Nigeria. So we're bringing it home, right? So my next question will be to Mitchelle. Mitchelle is like, no, not me yet. Okay, so let me go to Modupe Sanwo-Olu. Let me give Mitchelle some time. So Modupe, what sustainable practices do you believe are most critical to Nigeria's fashion industry today, and why? Why do you think so?
Okay, hi. Good morning. Oh, still morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having us on this panel this morning. You really gave me a big question to answer. So I think I'll start with our energy problem. So, in this year, one of the things that has skyrocketed has been the price of fuel, diesel, and the knock-on effect that has been having on the prices of goods and services. So, in response to your question, I would say one of the ways that we can be sustainable in Nigeria is how we source and use energy. So at Iremi today, we use a combination of on-grid energy solutions as well as off-grid by our solar. So solar was a significant investment that we made this year, and that heavily reduced our energy costs, and it helped us to rely more on solar, which is a renewable source of energy. I think, just as Ms. Coco has said, one of the things we also try to do is we try to reduce our fabric. We try to reduce waste in fabrics. So we tend to do that because we make more, I guess, bespoke bridal things. We do a lot of pattern drafting so that we have more accurate measurements and more accurate fits so that fabrics are not wasted, so that it comes out better. And we try not to overstock as well so that we buy what is needed per time so that we're not, we don't have wastage. Is that okay?
All right, thank you so much, Modupe, for that. Moving on to Michelle. Are you ready for us now? All right. So I like the part of your bio that reads, blending tradition with modern flair. I totally love that, right? But I see that, looking at what Amanda is wearing today, very beautiful. I see that most of your designs are, dictated by your customers, right? You have to create what they want. You have designers, you have clients say, I want feathers at the top, I want fringes at the bottom. So how do you still make sure that you infuse, these sustainable practices when you have to meet up with what the client is demanding for?
In order to imbibe sustainable practices in Mamadi Couture, I make sure that, firstly, I use very durable fabrics, in terms of longevity. And also, I make sure that we create timeless pieces, to avoid, take for example, we make a dress that is fully beaded, embellished. It's really hard to discard such a dress. So yes, I make sure that I imbibe timeless pieces in every work that I do. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I hope we're learning something this morning. Are you learning something? So I can walk up to you and ask you what you've learned after this session, right? Yeah, sure. I'm looking at your face, so. All right. So moving on to Venita. Hi, Venita.
Hi.
I love what you're doing with Unicorn Effect. Well done. I love that, the brand is all about self-expression and, individuality. And I also love that, there's a part of your bio that says that fashion is not just about clothes, it's storytelling. It's about you telling a story. Well done with that. All right, so to my question. How can fashion brands in Nigeria promote self-expression sustainably, especially when fast fashion dominates the industry?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I don't think it's morning anymore, so good afternoon. And ladies, it's a pleasure to be able to share this platform with you all. In this current day and age, a lot of things have changed. Information travels around faster, like you said. Fashion travels around faster because we have the internet, we have Instagram, we have all these other apps. So in the same way, that can be implemented into fashion. So the Unicorn Effect brand actually has a lot of, printing, graphics, and part of the ways where, you can be sustainable is kind of digitalize. And it also reduces costing in terms of business. For example, ladies, the show you put on was spectacular this year, I must say, Banke. And I was just like, the receipt bill that they will give her will be huge. But if you have like an AI situation, for example, where you're not hiring physical models, but you do hire a very technical team who create this, world or a metaverse where everybody can lock in the world at the same time. So you're pushing out, your message across at the same time, uniform, because if you're not in Nigeria at that time, you would have had to fly in to attend. So there's so many different ways that the digital world does actually, turn a lot of things around into sustainability. And we do have a young generation that is very woke, very aware. Yeah. Kids are already coding in school. So I think, newer practices that are adaptive to the current, modern demand is a way that, one can go forward to be sustainable as a fashion brand.
I love the digital aspects that you just pointed out. Thank you so much, Venita. All right, still on storytelling. I'm back to Banke. right? I know that you're very big on storytelling, and I know that, the bulk of your work is inspired by nature. So I'm going to tell a quick story. It's going to be very quick, and it's about me, right? So, 2 years ago, I started my fashion brand. Before that time, I did not know what sustainability in fashion was about. I had no idea. The only thing that I would say really helped me was research, one, and then two, I started to work as a beauty editor for a magazine brand in the UK. That was how I learned about, sustainability. So I see that you employ, storytelling a lot. How do you think that storytelling can influence consumer consciousness? And aside, storytelling, what other ways do you think that people can become more aware about, sustainability and, these sustainable practices? What things would you suggest to help both consumers, manufacturers, designers to learn about, sustainability?
So storytelling is the most important thing in today's world. Not just about sustainability, but other issues. It's storytelling is really about opening up a conversation, and through conversation, we're able to conquer many things: end wars, sell clothes. It varies. At Banke Kuku, when I first started my fashion brand, it takes a lot to tell a story. To amplify that message, it takes a village. You need as many people sharing the story, talking about it. And Oceans was really, I feel like that's really where, we broke the ground on every level, digitally, locally, in every way. And I was very intentional about telling not just a beautiful story about Nigeria, but a story that could impact everyone, and a story that people can get involved in. And I'm sure there were a lot of people who were not aware of the sustainable story that I was telling. So storytelling is important because it educates people. Education is something that's very important, and particularly in Nigeria, where people may not have access to great levels of education, but they can be on Instagram and they can see Banke Kuku's Oceans, and they can see that the ocean needs to be revived, So storytelling is one way we can talk about sustainability. Another way about learning about sustainability is just online, just literally Googling it in. And another way designers can really, I feel like people are really captivated by beauty. So you can draw people in with the beauty and then tell them the story later, because it's not the most exciting subject as, if we're talking about, cleaning up the beach or whatever. It's not the most exciting thing. So I think beauty is a really great way to captivate the audience.
So you said beauty, storytelling, and of course using our digital platforms as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right, back to Modupe. Modupe is a legal practitioner, by the way, a professional one. So, based on your legal expertise, how do you think that regulatory frameworks can encourage sustainable practices?
Can I just put a small disclaimer that I do more business than law now? By the way. So, to your question as to how regulations can...
How regulatory frameworks can encourage sustainable practices, and what legal measures would you propose to promote, these sustainable practices?
Okay. I think that there has to be a harsher penalty for toxic environmental practices. We find it very easy to throw things out of your car. Find it very easy to dump things in places where you should not. You find it easy to burn waste in the open air. And I feel like there needs to be a harsher penalty for those things. Because if we have a strong enough deterrent, I think that people will shy away from, doing such harmful environmental practices. I also think that we need more, especially in terms of recycling and just how we arrange waste. We need more funding. We need more provisions of bins, of people. We need more people to talk about the importance of the environment. A lot of people, they say they care about the environment, but then when you actually see how they run their businesses or live their lives, what they're saying and what they're doing is not matching. So I think that it would also behove on SMEs, MSMEs like ourselves to actually start putting policies like Ms. Kuku had mentioned, like Ms. Venita had mentioned, like Ms. Amadi had mentioned, policies in place that from the ground up we're building those structures and those frameworks. I would say the government, there's a lot of awareness that needs to be made with the Ministry of Environment, with LASEP, with the Environmental Protection Agency. They're doing a bit, but I feel like there's more that needs to be done in terms of making people aware of the repercussions of their actions towards the health and the state of our environment. I would say that we're a country that there are a lot of laws, but I feel like a lot of people don't know the laws or they can't find them. So I would say and I find that a lot of people, once they have the information or they can find it, I mean, the people that have conscience, they would usually want to abide because they don't want trouble. They don't want to face any harsh penalties. So I would say if we can also arrange our laws and our regulations in a way that people can easily access them and they can actually know what they say, it would be easier for them to also follow them, I guess.
All right, thank you so much. Back to Venita. Venita, you play in both, the fashion and entertainment space, right? So I'm not going to leave the entertainment space out completely. Do you think that the entertainment industry also has a part to play in impacting or influencing how, these sustainable practices in fashion?
I think everybody has, who's alive currently has a personal obligation to maintain, a basic level of responsibility, at least, towards sustainability. So in entertainment, we definitely recycle a lot. Right. This set, I'm sure if you walked in here this morning, it has definitely served other stages and other sets. And a lot of, creativity is in entertainment and fashion alike. So you need to, yes, there are ideas that people get all the time, but every artisan has how they interpret their idea. So it's never in one way. And it's usually, even if it's not physical, there are ideas that are recycled. So sustainability is everywhere when it comes to just creative industries generally. We definitely do our best, but yes, we do need cameras. We do need, energy resources. And hopefully, there will be, more introduction of things like lithium batteries and all of that, which will allow people to use lights outside of drawing from electricity, because as you said, we do have a power problem. But yeah, it's around in so many different ways. In fact, I would say we probably recycle, I don't know, is it cheeky for me to say creative industries is probably the most recyclable industry currently in the country. Yeah. We sustain ideas, we sustain stories, we sustain, physical elements, and we're constantly innovative. This is a country that is under a lot of pressure right now. And if you can learn to be successful here and progressive here, I don't believe there's anywhere in the world that you cannot make it. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. All right, so we've addressed, we've gone through the basic understanding of what sustainability is. It's time for us to talk about, challenges, solutions, innovation, and of course, collaboration. So I'm going to start with Mitchelle. What challenges do you think the Nigerian fashion brands face in implementing sustainable practices, and how do you think that this can be addressed?
Okay, so I'll start with the government. I think our government needs to be enlightened. The truth is, not a lot of people don't understand what sustainability is in our industry. Right. So I think the government has to be enlightened about this so they can, ban, ban productions of toxic materials or bringing in toxic materials. Material vendors, especially in the markets in Lagos. Imagine going to the market and you say, I want a high-grade cotton or 100% silk. There is no transparency amongst fabric vendors. They don't even know what it is. So I feel vendors has to be enlightened. So take, for example, I can go to the market and speak to a vendor that I'm used to buying things from and tell them that, okay, look, you can't get this fabric because imagine let's say there's a cheap fabric and I make it for a client and the client sits somewhere and just, there are this kind of fabrics that you sit somewhere, just a little pinch and then it rips, right? And then what would that person do? Just dump it, yeah? So that's why it's really important to get a very durable fabric, very solid one. And it starts with the people we get these fabrics from. So it's important that they are aware, yes, it's going to be expensive, but then we have to move to the clients by making them understand why it's important to go for this, right? Because, when you think about it, I can remember that my mom's fabrics, she passed them down to me, but you don't find that right now. It's difficult to see things like that. In our parents' time, you find their traditional ashokes, their George fabrics, their normal fabrics. It's still very authentic and solid. So I don't know why, maybe right now, because of the high inflation of dollar, it's easy to get cheap things, because people don't want to spend a lot of money. And even with clients, when you talk about the prices of things, and they tell you, why am I paying this money? But the truth is, I need to get you something authentic, right? So I think you need to speak to the clients, speak to the vendors, make them understand what sustainability is, and we can progress from there.
Thank you so much. I think she deserves a round of applause for that, please. All right, Banke. You have an experience in the UK and, of course, globally. How do you think that we can encourage collaborations between Nigerian designers and international brands to promote sustainable practices?
I think, we're creating, there are lots of platforms in Nigeria that really propels Nigerian designers. So I think within the country, we're definitely creating the platforms. And to be honest, Nigerian designs are really sought after globally. So I think it's really a time, I think collaborations are actually a lot of things, you're going to start seeing a lot of them happening. And really, it's about the two brands amplifying the sustainable story. I think that's the only way we can make it work. But I think over the next couple of years, you're definitely going to see. We've already seen quite a few collaborations between fashion brands. You had Karl Lagerfeld and Kenneth Eze. I did one with Gabrielle Union. They're definitely coming up. So I think it's a really exciting time for Nigerian designers, and I think the sustainable story is definitely going to be amplified.
All right, so please, if you have a question, start preparing your question. After this next question, I'm going to be opening the floor for you to ask your question. So please, if you have a question, can you indicate? Okay, fantastic. I'll come back to you. If we have more people who want to ask questions, please prepare your questions, because I'll be taking them after this question. All right, so Venita, this can be answered by either Venita or Modupe. What role do you think technology will play in advancing sustainable practices, and how? I know we've touched on it before, but I want us. You were the one who talked about, digital. You mentioned digital, so I think you should be the one to answer the question. So, can you touch more on that aspect? What ways do you think that what roles do you think that technology can play, and how can we amplify this? You need help.
Assist me, join in.
I think one of the ways that we can be sustainable is even from the creative process. So now I do more of my illustrations digitally, and I'm able to get maybe fabric samples or fabric pictures from vendors, or I get online inspirations, and instead of me having to buy a yard or buy samples of fabrics, I can just superimpose them. I can take a picture of it and superimpose it into my designs. So in that way, I've cut down cost of transport, cost of cloths, cost of paper, a lot of things that go into that process have drastically I guess, reduced.
Yeah.
I guess I use a lot of AI now in like drafting emails and creating responses, even creating prompts for social media. We use that a lot, and that has saved us so much time on even our data that we use, on doing research and speaking to people. That has reduced a lot of time. I think a lot of things that we don't think about one of the things that we don't think about as a non-sustainable resource is time. You don't get back time. Once you spend it, it's gone. So one of the ways that we can actually redeem time is to find ways to work smarter as opposed to working harder. So we can use AI to help us to redeem our most non-sustainable assets, which is the time that we have.
And just to add gently, thank you. That was a brilliant answer. But yes, the more developed, the more knowledge we have, and just better equipment, you'll be able to do these things. You will not have to cut your fabric with your hand anymore. You can go and have it laser cut. Laser cut will cut you multiple pieces at one time. You can go and have your pattern. Patterns used to take me, oh my gosh, I will sit there and be cracking my head. You already know about this. Now there's, pattern drawers, they'll do that all digital for you. So it's just the development, technology really, really helps in cutting down a lot of laborious, arduous bits. And then AI, now there's I found a list of 70 other apps that can do everything right from start the design all the way right down to, your mailing list and your customer client list. And it's just utilizing these things. I'm a bit of a slow, my time, we were doing everything by hand, but I want to encourage everybody to use technology to get to where you want to. If you think something is impossible, it isn't. Go online, find out how, and you'll be able to do it, definitely.
Nothing is impossible right now. Go online, do your research, and, work smarter, not harder. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we'll be taking questions now. Yeah, please. Can I have an usher, please help with a mic? Please, can you come forward? Thank you. If you have a question, or I could just hand my mic over. Do we have a mic, or should I hand my mic over? Okay. Okay, we'll be taking just 3 questions. The first 3 people to get here. 1, 2, the third person. Thank you. She's like, you take my question. You can come. Come and ask your question. Oh, we have 4 people already. Yeah. Oh, sorry. All right.
Okay, I have 2 questions. Is that okay?
1 question, please. Pick the most important question and direct your question to whoever you want to answer your question.
Okay. Okay, I think I'll do it to Banke. Are there particular international sustainable practices that Nigerian fashion industry can adapt to fit the local context, and how?
I think most sustainable practices are actually global, because we're trying to protect the world in total, not just Nigeria. But things I know that they're very conscious abroad is stuff like your global footprint. So that's not just you as an individual traveling. That's for example, if you make a garment and your fabric is from China, your buttons are from Australia, and that's a lot of global footprints. That's a lot of traveling. So we're trying to minimize that, because obviously the planes, they emit a lot of toxic fumes. So you try and get everything you can locally. So that's something that we can think about more, and that would actually improve the fashion industry. So instead of trying to buy all our buttons from Australia, maybe we can find ways to actually produce them here. So you're minimizing your global footprint. Yeah.
Question. But if we start to produce our buttons here, I think it will cost, more global in terms of the carbon footprint than just say.
If we start to manufacture our buttons here,
Yeah.
well, if we're manufacturing our buttons here, then the global footprints will reduce. Because it's not just your global footprint, it's the other thousands of designers who are ordering. Imagine how many flights that will take to bring them in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, ladies. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Okay, I acknowledge and commend the efforts that your respective brands are making towards, a more sustainable fashion industry. However, my concern is for small scale, small scale and medium business enterprises, those the digital divide that have no access to the internet and do not know what these sustainable practices are. Take for instance the Ginika in Ikotu, that's a tailor, the roadside tailor that will just sweep his materials to the gutter nearby, and all of that. So, how do we bridge the gap? How do we sensitize, these people on these practices so that we have an ecosystem of respective fashion designers that are practicing these sustainable measures and, making the world a better place?
Can I go? It's for the house. Oh no, she had rules. Follow her rules.
So direct your question to.
All right, Venita then.
Okay, well, I really like the fact that you mentioned that, yes, there are people who don't have access to laptops and, just a lot of access to the current digital age. But there are so many ways. If you actually go to the borders, like you can get like the best dyes outside of town if you just take a trip. I'm friends with a lot of people in creative industries, so I think there is always the grassroots. Like, for example, there's a course that is offered at Nikkei Art Gallery. There's one that she does. I've been there. She's very welcoming, very warming, and you can learn how to do these other things there. But I think the best way that we can get this across is to now have what, Banke said, which is storytellers. So I'm a certain type of storyteller. You may decide tomorrow you want to be this type of storyteller. You want to be a sustainable storyteller. You might decide once a month you're going to go and find an artisan or an engineer or somebody that is recycling or being innovative with something, and you might shoot content around that. You have a voice. So I'm going to challenge you to use your voice and become one of the people who tells a story and gets that message of sustainable energy across. Can you do that? All right.
So Venita is basically saying, instead of you asking, how do we, you should go and do it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My question is directly to Venita. So you spoke about collaboration, and Venita said something very instructive about fashion not just being about clothing, it's storytelling. Yeah. So I want to ask, what's your thought process after making your outfit and having to decide on who are the people who are going to showcase this style or this clothing to the world? What's the thought process behind them? How do you select the best people for your brand?
Okay, so my brand is not up to 2 years old, it's a year old, and I initially began the Unicorn Effect because that is the name of my fan base. They are known as the Unicorns. Yeah. Shout out to my mafia. So every, being online, I'm quite interactive. I do my best. And I learned there were a lot of things about my journey in entertainment, especially on reality TV, that a lot of people felt connected to. So initially, this was what I wanted to get across. I wanted, we have graphics that have me on a unicorn and different kind of things and whatnot. But I want my brand to go past being a fad and a moment. So now I have to come up with a sustainable idea. But I had always informed them that the story is gonna change. I did shoot film first, make on wait till they come. Do you understand? It's just very important to do things in your own way and your own time. There are brands that have, I'm sure Banke's first season is quite different to the season that she has now. So it's okay to develop. It's okay to do that at your own pace. Yeah? You have more to your question? Okay.
So you said it's okay to develop, it's okay for you to change over time. How do you deal with that? Because when it comes to storytelling, people always put people in a box, especially when you create. So how do you not stay in a box? How do you stay true to yourself, regardless of whatever you hear on the side, even within your own industry?
To be honest, your spirit has to be strong. Your spirit has to be strong. Oh. It doesn't even matter if your mind is strong. It doesn't matter if you're physically strong. There's going to come times that you have that weakness. But you have to have something in you that believes I am the best human, I'm the best designer, I'm the best athlete in this room. It doesn't matter. And you need to just hold on to that. In this place, they will bash and boast you. My dear, hold on to yourself, because when the chips go down, you are what you have. Yes, it's your mind that will still figure out how to solve a problem. It's your hands that are still going to fashion and design pieces and create concepts. You're still going to send that, whether it's by drawing, whether it's by email, whether you are dying, in an indigenous village somewhere, or you're online, you're still going to do it. So trust you more than anything. I have been put in so many boxes, honey, from the beginning, from Vixen to this. My current boxes, I think it's Mean Girl now, their own. That's their own. But the ability to keep changing, I don't listen to them more. I continue to push forward and do what I want, my own time, my own way. And guess what? The world is still watching. The world is still watching. I've been in industry for about 13, 14 years now. And I have continued to transform, and I still will. That's what tells a good story. That's a good storyteller, and you are responsible for telling your own story the way you want to.
Never forget that you are responsible for telling your story the way you want. Thank you so much. Now, before I let you go, I want to, ask one final question, right? I want us to describe the Nigerian fashion industry that we see in the next, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. What Nigerian fashion industry do you see regarding, sustainability and, innovation? What do you see? I want everyone to answer that question, actually. Just very short and simple. Who wants to go first? Banke.
So I start, okay. I see an industry that is, I feel the Nigerian fashion industry is really going to focus on manufacturing, and we're trying to create, and I've been in several rooms where we've been talking about really building this manufacturing sector of fashion, because that's really what the fashion industry is about, and we lack that. A parallel industry where you can, there are places you can print, there are places you can, you find woven fabrics. We're investing in farmers. We're investing farmers that grow cotton and linen and different things like that. We're investing in production. And I really believe, it's already happening. And in 5 to 7 years, if we keep focused, it could be a really big thing. Because Nigeria used to be the biggest cotton grower. We used to be the biggest cotton producers in the world. And things kind of just fell off, and now it's Egypt and other places. But I really believe that can come back to us.
Thank you so much for that. Mitchelle.
For me, I'll just keep it short. I see Nigerian fashion industry completely refined. Yeah. We're completely going places. It's mind-blowing. So I see, especially with the government also, I still emphasize on this, because in terms of knowledge and all of that, the government has a lot of role to play.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we can see, especially with the xylophone thing that they banned, they could see that it was creating a lot of toxic environment with the oceans and dump sites and everything. So I believe that they would also enforce, the ban of toxic materials from coming into our country. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of growth in terms of sustainability. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I see Nigeria becoming a fashion central, fashion central. I see a lot of collaborations in the future with international brands. I see Adire becoming a statement fabric that a lot more people are going to wear. and not just Nigeria, but other indigenous fabrics like Ashoke. I see that a lot of people are making amazing things, bags, coats, furniture. So I see a lot of ingenuity that is going to come from our natural Nigerian products. I see us exporting a lot more because a lot of people are going to start seeking for our expertise in some of the garments that we produce, some of the bags, even the leather, in our leather industry. I see us revamping in that. I see a lot of wonderful brands doing great things, and I see them stocking in major department stores such as, Harrods, and Neiman Marcus. I see a lot more Nigerian brands in those places. So I agree with Ms. Kuku. There's going to be a lot more manufacturing happening here and a lot of exports. And there's a lot that the government has to play in providing funding for SMEs. Because if you give us access to grants, if you give us access to tax rebates, if you even fix the roads and ensure that we have stable lights, a lot of people are able to afford their expansions by themselves. Yeah. If banks give you more favorable loans and give you more time to pay, you'll be surprised as to what the Nigerian designers can do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Finally, Venita.
I thought I escaped. Well, I'll keep mine lighthearted. I think all the ladies have punched on the main points. But yes, more brand collaborations in the future, international collaborations. It means that actually more of the creative industry here has to comply with international sustainable laws and practices. So people, if you don't want to be conditioned by the government here, you're definitely going to have to pass some kind of grade or quality check at some level with an international brand that you're collaborating with. I think African fashion, especially Nigerian fashion, is going to have its Afrobeat phase with the world. I think they're going to have a honeymoon phase. I definitely think there's going to be a Wiz of fashion and a David of fashion and a Burner of fashion. I definitely see that happening because, if you look around prom time online, a lot of them are ordering from brands that are like over here. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? Resort wear. A lot of the stuff kind of mimics and picks elements of like stuff that we have here, and they wish they could get it, but they can't get it fast enough because obviously dependable systems, but somebody will get it done. A brand will blow and they will install their own factory and they will create more jobs, and 7 to 8, don't even be like a digital Zoom network where you can order from there and it'll be wide. So I think this is the beginning of the courtship of Nigerian fashion in the world. But they're going to definitely get into a very deep, committed relationship. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. So I hear manufacturing, I hear collaborations, I hear fashion central, I hear international relationships, and it is so beautiful to hear. I look forward to, all of these things. Thank you so much. I'm going to definitely leave us with these words. True innovation in fashion is not just about creating something new. It's about creating something better for the people, something better for the planet, and of course, something better for the future. My name remains Ebunoluwa Dosumu, and it's been such a pleasure and a delight moderating this session. I hope you had a great time. Thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.